And welcome to the latest QPR Preview Show ahead of the home match with bottom of the table Rotherham. This is the latest opportunity for QPR to escape the bottom three. Last weekend's results couldn't really have favoured us anymore as QPR bounced back with a win against Bristol City, whilst Millwall, Huddersfield, Stoke and Swansea all lost. QPR now only a point from safety, which is the closest we've been at any stage, and they're now 5 teams covered by just 4 points. And we've really brought Stoke and Swansea back into the mix as well. And now we have to hold our hands up and say we did not see that win coming at Bristol City. You only have to watch last week's show back, and we felt the club was a bit dejected on and off the pitch after Stoke. You only have to look back now a week on at the different QPR forums and Facebook pages and the multiple threads about us being down, out of hope. It's certainly a roller coaster following this team. You were at Bristol City, Dave. Much happier away day, I assume, than it was at Stoke.
Yeah, it was a little bit better than Stoke. They're just so infuriating. We said it straight after the game. How can you go from playing like they did against Stoke to that performance? It's unbelievable. I can't believe it's the same team. But they needed to do it, and it was a million times better from Stoke than the Stoke game. I thought we started a bit nervous, and they had a few chances early on, but there was a moment in the first half. Ball was loose on the halfway line, and Hayden went in with a big sliding tackle just to go off for a throw-in, and it just woke the away end up. Everyone was like, oh, here we go. And the whole team seemed to liven up after that. We scored not long after. And second half, some of the football they played, I assume that was us playing on Saturday. One-touch stuff. I've seen Willock, Chair and Anderson. It just looked really good. And you just come away. We should have won that 2-3-0. It was unbelievable compared to what we saw a few days earlier. So, it was much needed that they had to get something out of that game, really, after the result in midweek.
Yeah, the much shared clip of us passing it around in that left-hand side was unbelievable bit of play. You just can't believe that's the same team that just 2 or 3 days before at Stoke was playing with none of that guile and speed and zip at all. So it does now just make the Stoke result all the more frustrating, really, because we could have been 3 points ahead of where we are. But it is another example of where we have to tip our hat to the manager this week, because he has shifted the mentality of the club, how we react to defeats. I think in the past, I know we're far from the finished article now, but in the past, we would have had that Stoke result and it would have been the first of 6 consecutive defeats for QPR, wouldn't it? To bounce back after only 2 days off, it was impressive, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And you heard him in the days after the Stoke game, he was like, right, that's gone now. We weren't good enough. We need to respond. And the changes he made really worked. He brought Dunn in at right back. When the team come out, I was like, oh, God, what is he doing here? But Dunn played really well. Anderson had a really good debut. Dykes, I thought, had a good game up front. The changes worked, and he's really having an impact. And like you say, so often we'd go with 1 defeat, returning to 6 before you know it. They're bouncing back quickly, and we're on a decent little run at the minute. We need to keep building with it. But I couldn't go over all night Saturday night how well we played compared to that game against Stoke. It was unbelievable. It was pretty much the similar team. It was bizarre. But, that's what this team does. They're good one week, they're terrible the next. You just can't get any consistency. It's why we're all still nervous about staying up, because you just don't know what QPR are going to turn up every week.
Yeah, I suppose the only negative from Bristol City was that it was only 1-0, because we should have been out of sight in the game, the amount of chances we were having, and it still took the Sam Field header off the line. And I know it might have been a foul or whatever was given, but it was still heart in the mouth moment, which we need to stop avoiding, because it got a bit like that at Blackburn a fortnight ago as well, where we're hanging on when our performance doesn't need it to be like that. But another thing QPR have been terrible at, and it's been the same under Martí Cifuentes, is when the opportunity has come to escape the drop zone, we throw in an abysmal performance. We've seen it at home to Plymouth, away to Millwall, Huddersfield at home, Stoke away. This time, it surely has to change, doesn't it?
Well, it has to, because they're not going to keep getting these opportunities. They're not going to keep coming along. You see what follows this Saturday. They're going to have a tough week. 3 teams, like the team that are going to win the league, and 2 teams around the playoffs. You're not likely to win many of those. So you need to get points on the board this one, Rotherham were obviously struggling. They played quite well last night, was a bit unlucky, but you need to maintain that performance from last week. Cifuentes says it a lot. Sort of constrain your own performances. If the performance level's high, the results will follow. And he's right, that will happen. If they play to a high level at the weekend, they will win. But we've all seen QPR this season. God knows which one's going to turn up.
Yeah, I mean, at least it is only one defeat in 6 games. Like you say, we are on a decent run by QPR standards over the last 18 months. Just got to continue it for one more game and get ourselves out of that bottom three. Well, it was a week, like we're saying, that it was hard to analyse QPR. How do you go from Stoke to Bristol City? But in terms of Rotherham, there are a lot of stats here now to document how they're struggling. But in the head-to-head, they're another side that QPR actually don't have the best record against. Only one win in the last 7 in the league for QPR. But statistically, Rotherham are literally a mess, heading for League One, surely. They last won a game on Boxing Day, which leaves them 9 without a win. They've actually lost the last 5 in a row as well. And that win on Boxing Day was their only win since October. And their away record, where do we even begin? Well documented, I think, but they last won away in November 2022. Overall, they've only won 2 away from home last season, yet to win away from home this season. Only scored 12, conceded 41. But despite their form, despite their away record, this is genuinely the type of match QPR love to lose, isn't it?
Yeah, it's terrifying. Those stats terrify me, to be honest. I'd rather play Leicester, to be honest. But, you know, you look at it, they're probably going to get relegated. You know, they're in a really they need snookers now to get out of this. But on their day, they can win a game. I know they haven't for a while, but they almost beat Leicester last night. They were pretty unlucky to lose the game. Probably deserved at least a point out of it. Ipswich, sorry. You know, they're on. If we don't play to our best, we are more than capable of losing this game, and that they will take advantage of it. They've got Hugo up front, who hasn't scored for donkey's years, but he's always a threat, and he likes to go against us. We can't take them lightly at all. You know, we just need to do our job, play like we did last week, get on the front foot. If we get a goal ahead, don't just sit back and think the game's won. Keep going for more. They need to win this game. You know, they kind of need to take the league table out of their head a little bit. I think it gets in their head this, or we'll win and we'll get out the bottom 3. Just win this game. All they've got to concentrate on is getting to 50 points as quick as they can. The league table will take care of itself.
Yeah, definitely. If we play our game, we win this game. Like if we see what we saw for 70 minutes against Blackburn, the second half, particularly against Bristol City, that performance level would beat Rotherham. But you have to compare it, don't you, to that game that happened under Steve McLaren. They had a terrible away record then as well, hadn't they? They hadn't won all season. And QPR, we joke about it, but we literally are the gift that keeps on giving in these situations. The script hopefully isn't already written this time. I saw another stat, and this was from November, that at that point, they'd had 100 away games in the championships and they'd only won 9. They haven't obviously won for another 3 months since that stat. It's quite remarkable how bad they are away from home. And like you were saying, you'd expect their season is done 14 points now, I think it is from safety. They surely can't overturn that deficit. And you mentioned in midweek, it was a cruel defeat to come from 3-1 down back to 3-3 to still lose. Do you think they come into this one disheartened by that? Because it must have been heartbreaking at the end.
It must have been, but let's be honest, they've got absolutely nothing to lose anymore. No one thinks they're going to stay up. They probably don't think they're going to stay up. So they're a dangerous team to play in these sort of games because, you know, it's not often we're expected to win. So, you know, I'm nervy about this one. I shouldn't be, because you look at all the stats you just reeled off, and I've seen Rotherham a few times. They're not a great side. We should have beaten them at their place earlier in the season, and I think it was Cifuentes' first game, but we didn't. But this is QPR. This is what we do. Charity Park Rangers sometimes, isn't it? And we just got to make sure we don't do that, because if we do throw this one away, it's going to be a difficult march for us. We need points on the board now.
Yeah, definitely. These are 3 points we need. When you look at the next 4 or 5 fixtures, it's probably hard to get in the Rotherham mindset, isn't it? Because it's not often that a team is so far adrift at the bottom. So maybe they play with freedom, but also you must think they must be a bit deflated and low on confidence. It must be hard to motivate yourselves when you keep losing and you have so little to play for. We shall see on Saturday, obviously. Talking of QPR and stats, obviously we have a much better home record under Martí Cifuentes, but it's still the worst home record in the division. So we've still got that to overcome as well. There's also going to be a few selection headaches, you think, for the manager. Let's start with Jimmy Dunn. You just slightly mentioned him before. He was a surprise selection at right back last week. Does he keep his place for you?
It's a difficult one because he played at right back last year under Ainsworth, and I think he had a good game at West Brom, and then the following game he was terrible at right back. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen again. But he did add an extra bit of steel to us, especially at set pieces. I thought he played the role well, and it did allow because he stayed back a lot more than Cannon does, it allowed Willock to play more in their half, which did help. So I wouldn't be surprised if he starts again in that position. Cannon seems to be struggling with injuries a lot as well. So I think Dunn might get the nod again.
Yeah, I think it's something that he may be going to consider more maybe for away matches and, like you say, for set pieces. I think for this one, though, it would be harsh to drop him because we kept a clean sheet. So I expect he could stay in. And this one's now probably going to be a weekly debate, but Hayden, Field, Colback, 3-2 doesn't go. How would you see them lining up this week?
I think the positive with it is whichever two you pick, you probably say that's a strong midfield, which is what we wasn't saying a couple of months ago when we was trying to pick a midfield out of that lot. It's nice options to add. I thought Hayden was really good last week, and I think that was Field's first start for a while because of his suspension, and he was excellent last week. So, he's pick them out of a hat, really. I just see how they do in training this week. I think any of them will be fine in there. And you've got the option of whoever doesn't play to come off the bench if needed.
Yeah, that's a key thing, isn't it? Bringing a player of that quality on is something we've lacked for so long. If he's fit, I think it's going to be Hayden +1 each week. Maybe Cole back this week because he's a bit more progressive with the ball at his feet, maybe at home. I also feel a little bit for Elijah Dixon-Bonner because he wasn't even on the bench last week and he's been quite impressive this season. But the options we've got now, he can't even make it into the squad. Another thing we didn't see coming last week was Lyndon Dykes starting because we spent most of the show saying we wanted it to be Armstrong and Frey. How did he do for you? And do you see him starting again against Rotherham?
I thought he did all right last week. His hold-up play was pretty good, and he was causing the centre halves a lot of problems, like challenging in the air, winning quite a bit in the air. He still had his good chance he missed where he had a bit of an air shot at 0-0, which we could have done a lot better with. Never really looked like he was going to score, to be honest. But he did okay. I don't think he'll start this one. I think he'll go back to Armstrong for this game. But again, like in midfield, it's nice to have options. Whichever of the one of them he picks, probably say, okay, you've got someone to come off the bench as well, if needed. It depends how he sees the game going. If Rotherham are going to sit deep, maybe Armstrong's not the man for that. You probably want Frey or Dykes, but I've got a feeling he'll start Armstrong because he does seem to start him at home. So I think he might go with him.
Yeah, Armstrong's had 10 days off as well because he didn't actually feature, did he, last week? So that maybe is in his favour. And you wonder how close Frey is to start, and he still doesn't look like he's got the 60, 70 minutes in his legs that he'd need. Do you expect the trio of Willock, Chair, Anderson to start together again?
I hope so. I was really impressed with them. I thought they were really good. They all linked really well together, and they seemed to grow in confidence as the game wore on. I was really impressed with Anderson. He did one quite clever free kick to start the second half where he put Chair in and we almost scored. And he was quite exciting to watch. You can tell he's played at quite a high level before. He's got a lot of quality about him. Hopefully we don't knock that out of him like we normally do. But I'd probably go with them three. And then you've got Smith off the bench later. Again, another option off the bench. He seems to do a lot better coming on later in games when the fullback's a bit tired, maybe on a booking. I think it'd be them three again.
Yeah, Willock, he had his best match for some time, didn't he? Probably since December. He seemed back to himself a little bit more. And Anderson, you're right, he's on another level, isn't he, with his composure and his intelligence. It's a long time since we've seen a QPR player spend a whole move with his head up looking for the pass already. I look forward to seeing him actually once he's had a run of games because you imagine he's still not even match fit and he's got 2 assists already. Just going to hope he can keep going. And obviously it means we've got Hodge on the bench as well. So another great option. We can't let this week pass by either without a mention of Michael Beale, the snake that he is, sacked after just 2 months and 12 games at Sunderland. Did that news brighten up your Monday when it was announced?
Oh man, yeah, you got to laugh, in you. I mean, that clip of him with the weekend refusing to shake the bloke's hand when he went off, that was a killer for him, wasn't it? It's just, I mean, you look at it. What a waste he's done of his career in the last year. He was on such a high with us, going well. He was on an upward, trajectory. He was looking really good. And he's kind of blown it all up himself. He forced through that move to Rangers, I think. He went up there to see a game when he was supposed to be managing us, and he pushed himself to get that job, pushed himself for other jobs, and it's blown up in his face. And, he's gone in at Sunderland. He did well to get that job, to be honest with you. I thought they would have gone elsewhere, but Sunderland fans just didn't take to him. The thing he's got to remember now is because of the way he left QPR, other clubs' fans, they do notice this stuff, and they're not going to take to you when you come in because they know that you're out the door when the first sniff of a better job. So I don't know where he goes from here. I think he's got himself in a right mess.
Yeah, it feels a little bit like his career is probably going to spiral out of control a little bit now. It'll be interesting to see where he comes up next. And you're bang on right about how other teams, fans are going to view him because of QPR. And I think that decision he made leaving us could haunt him for a long time. Because I think the only team who were going to accept him was Glasgow Rangers, because they had this idea of him being like the one in charge when they won the league. Other teams now just see what he did to QPR and they either don't like him and don't trust him from the start. So he's always got an uphill battle, because I actually thought he would struggle to fail at Sunderland. They have a good squad, a good team. So between the last 12 games, it's pretty poor. And the fans were desperate for him to go. So, like I say, it'd be interesting to see where he ends up next. It's just
It's a shame he didn't last till March. Isn't it?
I was about to say, it's just a shame he didn't last another 3-4 weeks. It would have been nice to have had a match against him, because you wonder if we ever will now. It'd probably be maybe a coach somewhere in the future. Back to QPR against Rotherham. Predictions, and we've had a few comments that we need to give an exact score and stick our necks on the line. So what are you going for?
I'm normally wrong with predictions, but I'm going to go with a win. I think we will win. I think they'll build on last week. I'll go 2-0, I think, this week.
Yeah, I'm going to go for 3-1. I think we'll concede, maybe from a set piece, because Rotherham are quite handy at those. But this feels like this, I said it a couple of weeks ago, but this really has to be the chance we take now. Because even if everybody else wins, which you can't really see with some of the fixtures, Millwall away to Southampton, if everyone wins, we need a win. You can't slip up here. You feel it. This is the week, though, where it feels like other teams are going to slip up, and we could even go as high as 19th with a win. Surely we have to do it. If we don't do it now, you have to question if we ever will. And it would massive. I mean, everyone was deflated after Stoke. If we lose this one in front of a capacity crowd at home, you wonder what the reaction is going to be like. Anyway, in the way the fixtures are fallen, we go from facing the team at the bottom this week to the team that's top next week, with the prospect of a trip to champions-elect Leicester looming large. We'll be back to preview that. Hopefully, we haven't let ourselves down against Rotherham in the meantime. And come on, you R's.
We know who we are. You know who we are. We are QPR.